Man, this is a terrible colorway. Before we get into today's video, if you are not signed up for the Supwell app, the best hobby jogger community out there, make sure to do that. Link is in the description below. We have a running shoe marketplace where you can buy, sell, and trade gently used running shoes. We have some of the best deals in the game on there. We also have people posting their own discount codes and different deals and discounts that they see across the internet. So if you just like hunting for deals, it's a great place. And we have training forums, so lots of great questions around how to improve training, and also a space to celebrate each other's wins and ask for help when we need it. So links in the description below. Supwell app, $1 a month. Let's get into today's video. All right, this morning we have our last workout of the Chicago Marathon block. I'm also extremely pressed for time. It's 8:09, I have a meeting at 9:30, and I had to drive Mason to school. So overall, a mildly annoying setup this morning, but guess what? Guess what? You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna get some miles in. If you're mildly annoyed, miles. If you're majorly flustered, miles. Even if you're moderately, there's a word. I'm thinking of this one word. What is this word? Oh man, I'll have to come back to you on this one. Peeved, moderately peeved. There you go. The miles are gonna be there for you. That's the theme of the block, man. You gotta get the miles in, stack the mileage on top. And speaking of stack, we're going to do the Puma Mag Max, and you might be a little bit confused why I'm pulling this shoe for the last workout here, which is a 3x1 mile. But I was a little bit confused yesterday, so I ran in this shoe yesterday, just 10-mile everyday run, and I was cruising. So I'm feeling really recovered, ready to go, ready to rip on Sunday. And I was putting down some 6:30s, 6:20s, 6:10s, 6 flats, and then I did strides, and I was in the 4s and 5s. So at first I thought this shoe was just a slightly bouncier Nova Blast, and then throughout the past 10, 15 miles, as I've started to use it a little bit more for everyday runs with strides, not just a true recovery shoe, and then yesterday's run, which is a progression run. Let me throw it up here just so you can see. Right, bada boom, bada bang. This thing has some get up and go. It has some serious horsepower. This foam is not messing around, man. This is one of the bounciest training foams that I've tried. And the cool thing about it is it's 100% of this foam here. So a lot of the other shoes in this max stack category, or all of the other shoes in this category, they either use 2 foams or they have a plate in there to stabilize it. So Running Warehouse measures this at 47. They measure the Glycerin Max at 47 millimeters in the back as well. The drop on this is a tiny bit higher, so it does put you up on your toes a little bit more, and that means you get a little bit less in the forefoot, but nearly 50 millimeters of stack, non-plated here, which means that it has to have a slightly firmer ride to it. And so when I was using the shoe, the majority of the first 50 miles were more relaxed pace, right? And for that more relaxed pace, this shoe was not super bouncy. But as I start putting more pace into it, and particularly on yesterday's run, it just started coming alive a lot more. So yes, slightly firmer foam, but with some pace, this thing can bounce. It does bounce along, and it might warrant the little weird name tag thing they have in the back here. So we're now at about 70, I think we're at 71 miles. Today will take us over 80 miles. I'll probably do my second run in the afternoon in this shoe as well. And the major question I want to answer today is, yes, it was bouncy for yesterday's run, which is just an everyday run. Yes, I got down to 6:10, 6 flat pace, but can I take this thing out for a real workout? So this is not a workout, a fitness building workout. We're 4 days from the marathon now. This morning's workout is just meant to be a sharpener or keep the legs alive workout, keep the mustard on the dog type of a workout. So it's 3x1 mile at threshold pace. Take these anywhere below 550. Yeah, between 530 and 50. So I've been doing a lot of my workouts in the plated race shoes. I want to see how this thing stacks up. The comfort on foot is good. And by the way, I know Puma's known to have narrower uppers and fits, and it's a little narrow, but I had the Hurricane 24 on before this shoe this morning, and this was when I was driving Mason School, and it was just rubbing a lot. I can still feel some irritation on the side here from the Hurricane, and when I put this shoe on yesterday to run it, I didn't feel any irritation. So stable in the back, normal width in the front. It's not too narrow. The length is good in the true to size, and a nice foam. I do want to see how this performs for some 530 to 540 to 550 pace. So we are now on the clock. I think I was planning to do 10 miles total in this workout, but we now only have time for 8. Charlie did offer to switch school driving days with me, so I can't be mad at anybody but myself. But man, look at that. It's another beautiful morning here in Mint Hill. Whew, man, it is chilly out here. Holy cow. Oh man, I gotta warm up, literally. Whew, low 50s. I am not built for this. This is too cold. I am soft. I've gotten soft. I've lived in North Carolina for too long. This is too cold. First straightaway here, moving and grooving, man. These are so bouncy. I feel like I was kind of sleeping on them through the first 50 miles. And then the Glycerin Max hit, and I love that thing. And I was running that a lot. They're just different shoes, this and Glycerin Max, but when I did the head-to-head comparison, that's what made me reconsider these and what they can be. And yeah, I am moving pretty good on this warm-up. I'm probably 7 flat or 650, and they're just, it's effortless, this pace in these shoes, which is wild. Protection, bounce, and I think they're becoming a little bit more fun with more miles. That's what was missing through the first 50 miles for me. All right, 6:35, mile 1. I thought I was going 7. Shout out to lower mileage. Man, we are moving. All right, we're about to hit mile 2. I'm feeling sufficiently warmed. Whenever this thing beeps, we're gonna hit this first threshold mile. These shoes have some serious balance, man. These are great. All right, it's go time. That was a 6:23. Ain't no Brick James today. There's some Mickey bounce
Are we listening to DC Go-Go? Because we got some bounce on the feet. All right, no dad jokes. That was mile 1 of threshold, 5:43. These things are coming alive. They are certainly bouncy. Man, so we have 2 minutes of rest here. I'm just gonna do a nice light jog. And we're gonna bang another one of these. This next one is downhill. All right. Next mile, threshold. See you on the other side of this. All right, GoPro died out there on the second threshold mile, but average pace 6:41, 8 miles, 55 minutes. And that was a little, I don't know. I ran it perfectly in terms of the pace, but I think these are best for me at that everyday pace to a little bit faster. So like yesterday's run, for example, the pace that I was holding on that was mid to low 6s. Anywhere from that to just above recovery is good. It's a daily trainer, and I think I got carried away maybe yesterday thinking that it was faster than it was, because for today's run in the 540s, I was definitely pressing a little bit more on those reps than I would have been in a race shoe, of course, but even something like the Mach X2 will do a little bit of a better job. So we hit the paces perfectly. The shoe is comfortable, is protective. One weird thing, though, is the drop feels high, man. This is working my hips. It was working my hips a lot. I can get this in the Alpha Fly, too, where it really puts me up on my toes. Now, this does not ride like the Alpha Fly whatsoever, but it feels like a high drop shoe. Just look at the difference in stack between the front here and the back. And now your foot is sitting in, your foot sits here, but still the front is nearly half the height of the back. So definitely a higher drop shoe, especially compared to the Glycerin Max that rides like a low drop shoe. So this was working my hips a lot, and especially trying to hit those faster paces, I could feel it working my hips. So something to keep in mind. It is now 9:15. I have 15 minutes before my meeting starts. So I'm going to shower and then see you in a bit. All right, post-run recovery. We are going to do burritos. So I asked Charlie to play the greatest hits this week. To make sure that I have all the fuel necessary to go rip on Sunday. So a little pre-made burrito action. She made these last night. They have the leftover chili from Sunday. And what else? Oh, some chorizo. You can see the chorizo poking out. Rice, of course. And I think some vegan cheese. These are absolute flames. You just have to make sure that you unstick it like that. Otherwise, sometimes it will stick to the bottom. Matter of fact, if we have parchment paper, that's even better. No, we do not. But we'll throw these in for about, 30 minutes on 350. Honestly, whenever I can sneak out of my meeting. And now it's 9:30. All right. Boom, and then I think I'm going to do a little bit of OJ here. This to just some quick carbs post-run. And then we also have some oatmeal bake, so I'll do a little slice of that while I'm waiting as well. I'm not playing around with my nutrition this week. All right, boom, some blueberry oatmeal bake, the water, which I meal prepped last night. Yeah, I have to meal prep water in my house because the filtered water from the fridge takes so long to come out. So I did a little 48-ouncer meal prep last night, and then leftover coffee. Whenever I drive Mace to school, I can't finish my whole coffee. So there we go. I have a 2 or 3 hour meeting, and then we'll be back. See you in a bit. All right, not very glorious here, eating lunch at the desk. It's, look at this. 11:30, but this is the setup. We got to get the calories in while we can, while we're working. So I had my orange juice going during that meeting. I was eating the oatmeal bake during the meeting. I had my coffee, and now I'm going to shove this burrito in my face as quick as possible. This is what we have to do so we're not underfueled. All right, double run time in the MagMax. I just kind of left these out here all morning.
Man, I've got to say, there are not very many shoes where I would even consider doing interval session in the morning, and holy cow, this is an absolutely atrocious sock-shoe combination right now. Oh, gosh. Yeah, there's not many shoes where I would consider doing, I don't even know what you'd call that morning run, but I guess it was 3 miles at threshold, but a workout like that, and then also doing an afternoon recovery run. And I do it with a lot of these shoes when I'm doing the double day test because I'm trying to test them. But this time I just thought it would be an actively good shoe for this. And it turned out to handle the morning miles pretty well. I was maybe pressing a little bit more, but I don't know. The effort didn't feel, it just felt different. It felt different for sure running fast in this shoe than what I'm used to. But this is a recovery run. 4 miles, nice and relaxed. Just enjoy the sights and the sounds of the burbs. Let's do it.
So this run is all about recovery. I like to do these afternoon doubles on my workout days to, I don't know, it's nice mentally, and then also physically, the recovery benefits. Flush the legs, keep them moving. Sometimes I feel like I can lock up after workouts if I don't get this double in. So I'm gonna keep it pretty relaxed here. And these shoes are great, just bouncing me along. And at this pace, this is where I get the bouncier Superblast vibe. It's when I pick it up and start digging. That's where it just transforms into a different beast. It's almost like there's a split character to this shoe. Where 720 and slower, for me, it's that workhorse feel, where it's like a higher stacked Vomero or a bouncier Superblast. And then below 720, that's where the Mag Max really comes into its own. And it's like nothing else out there. It's a cool shoe. Put some respect on the Puma Mag Max. I think this has gotten buried a little bit because the Glycerin Max came out right after it. And then of course we have the Asics Super Trash Juice, which there's just, so I don't know. Is this underrated? Is the Mag Max weirdly underrated? Is this shoe overrated or underrated? I sound like Bill Simmons right now. Ewing theory, Puma Mag Max. And I think this is probably gonna be my last double of the block. And look at this. What a send-off. Carolina afternoon, and it's perfect running weather. Perfect afternoon running weather. Man, we're gonna have some good fall running when we get back. Jump back into a base building period whenever I'm recovered, but man, look at this. Last hill, baby. I thought we were in hard fall, given the temperatures this morning, but this afternoon is proving it's still gentle autumn. All right, man, solid day of work. Let's see what we got here. Bada boom, bada bang, and I am uber hydrated. I need to use the bathroom. 7:31 pace, recovery. Somebody put something on my door. I'm guessing it's a political candidate. Whoever this is, I'm voting for. Oh, thanks for putting this on my door. No, I get it. So the thing is, North Carolina, this is a battleground state. So we got the Democrats out here putting in work. The Republicans out here putting in work. Trying to swing it. Everybody's trying to swing it. We have a considerably large margin of signs in our neighborhood going in one direction now. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting. All right. Supwell politics coming after the Chicago Marathon. 4 miles, 7:31 pace. Hold on. Conway the Machine said, Ferrari Piro saying that's big dog stuff. You know what I was looking at earlier today? The Ferrari 12 Cilindri. You know what that means? 12 cylinders. I was on Car and Driver looking at the Ferrari 12 Cilindri. I'm gonna have to sell a lot more shoes through my Running Warehouse affiliate link to get the 12 Cilindri. It's a beautiful car. Something about the design of a product when it can immediately communicate the experience you'll get from driving it or eating it or touching it or putting it on is just guttural. That's what I love about brands like Ferrari and Porsche. And if you look at the design of this, again, it's one of those shoes where it rides like it looks, but through the first, yeah, it's a little, I just light drama. Through the first, I don't know, 50 miles, I wasn't quite so sure. And if you remember the first run review I did of this shoe, I said it almost felt like it was too much stock and that we've reach the limits of what's acceptable in the max cushion gang. And it felt like I was fighting against the foam, and it felt like maybe it was overkill, and it felt like, is Puma just giving us a high stack height for the sake of marketing? Is the design in service of the commercial ambitions of the brand versus in service of the product? And when you think about brands like Ferrari and Porsche, why do they have those sculpted lines? Why do they have the aggressive intakes on the front fascia? It's not just to look cool. Now, those cars certainly do look cool. And in the case of Ferrari, their current design language is just beautiful. But it's also, you have those sculpted lines for aerodynamics to reduce the drag. They're lower to the ground for the same reason. You have those intakes on the front fascia of a car like the Ferrari 12 Cilindri to power the engine, so you can get more air flowing through and powering those big old 12-cylinder. That big old 12-cylinder. In the case of the Mag Max, the foam is not just for marketing. And that was my question at the beginning of my experience with the shoe, and especially with this little thing back here. And I called it cringe, and I still do think it's a little bit cringe and distasteful, and it's not how I would personally market a product. But they're not lying. This is a very bouncy shoe, and I'm not sure if it's like the Adidas shoes where we need 50 to 60 miles for it to break in, or if the shoe broke me in. Maybe I am the wild, untamed horse, and the Mag Max needed to tame me to teach me how to ride it. Maybe that's the thing, right? Or maybe it would be the reverse. It's regardless of the metaphor. I am mixing horse metaphors, car metaphor, just horrible. This is off the rails. Now I'm doing a train metaphor. I guess the theme is that all of these are different modes of transport, similar to a running shoe. Gets us from point A to point B. And the point that I am trying to land here is that we need to be. The Mag Max is protective, it's bouncy, and it's not soft, but once it's broken in, and this is what I'm trying to say, this is where we need to land the plane. Look at that, fifth mode of transport in this analysis. You need some time for this to get its true character, and I think it's 60 or 70 miles, and that's what's going to make this an awesome shoe. That's also why I like to put miles on these shoes, and I have not even done a true double-day test until today. And when I do these double-day tests, I like to do morning, a workout. Let's throw it up this morning's workout. We did really nice splits, actually. I think we did 5:43 on the first threshold mile, 5:42 on the second threshold mile, and then 5:41 on the last threshold mile. That was just a workout to keep the body remembering what faster pace feels like. So that's roughly threshold pace. Marathon pace is going to be anywhere from 6 to 6:07, 6:08. That's how I'm going to go out of the gate. So about 20 seconds faster, 25 seconds faster than marathon pace. And then this afternoon we did some nice recovery, and the shoe handled both really well. And after the run this morning, I was saying it felt like I don't know, maybe I had to work with the shoe a bit differently than how I'm used to running at that 5:40 pace. But I've been running, anytime I'm getting down to 5:40 pace in the past month, I've been running in carbon plated shoes. We've been going to Carbon County, baby, for those workouts. So this is the first time I've run in a non-plated shoe for that. And man, this was great for what it is. And even just compared to those shoes, the ability for a shoe of this size, of this weight, with this much foam, with this much girth, this is one of the thickest. I mean, I got my 48-ounce Nalgene. Is this thicker? This is thicker than a Nalgene. This is legit thicker than a Nalgene. So you got the wide base for the stability, but it still can get up and go. It has range. I wouldn't use this for a workout much faster than that, but man, if you want a more stability, structured, comfort, everyday oriented shoe that can still rip when you want it to, that's gonna be this. And let's think about the last 3 runs I did in this shoe. Yesterday morning, that was a 10-mile slight progression run. I didn't even mean for it. Let's throw that one up here too. I didn't mean for it to be a progression run, just turned into that. It was supposed to be just 10 miles every day. Those are my favorite runs, by the way. My guy Jeff Hardy posted on the app, Supple app yesterday. What are your favorite runs to do? Length and type. I love whatever my normal run distance is. So whether it's 8 or 10 or 12, recently it's been about 10 to 12. Doing that normal run distance and just vibes. That's what it was yesterday. I started around 7:30, I think. I ended at about 6, and then I did some strides and dipped below 6. This shoe performed really well for that. It was bouncy and just locked in nicely at that 6 flat pace, but it still has that range where it's easy for me to shift between gears, which I felt was missing a little bit or a lot of it in the Superblast. That's a very one-note shoe. And then the second to last run I did was this morning, 5:40 pace. Handled it decently well. The bounce is good, the protection is good. And for spending, I don't know, another hour on feet, it's still holding up well. And then today, this afternoon, the third run, 30-mile recovery run, it's still going. So this is going to be a very durable platform. I've been doing, I think, all my miles in the past 2 to 3 days on this shoe. I also ran it on Monday afternoon, so 4 runs in 48 hours. It's holding up really well. It's not losing any of that verve. It's energetic. This is my Superblast. This is my Superblast. That's exactly what I wanted out of the Asics Superblast. Bounce, protection, support, pop, no fighting against the foam. And that's the thing, at some slower paces with this shoe, it does feel like, do I need to pick it up a bit? So I think it still does have a tiny bit of that Superblast character where it is going to encourage you to run a little bit faster, especially if we're thinking about comparing it to the Glycerin Max. And that's what I was saying, the Glycerin Max stole the shine of this shoe. The Glycerin Max dropped, 2 to 3 weeks after this? And then that just took the streets by storm. I also think the design of the Glycerin Max, especially in the launch colorway, is so much better than this. This is maybe my least favorite launch colorway. Brands, PSA, stop doing blue and green. This is a terrible colorway. The 1080 V14 that I got, that was also a terrible colorway, and Dan posted on the Supple app this afternoon this all white, and then there's a gray, almost a Saucony Endorphin Elite colorway. It was gray with the red and the purple. Beautiful. In my pair, it was this blue, weird blue-green. These two colors just don't go together, especially with this gradient. And I made a business decision to buy this through my own Running Warehouse link instead of buying the all-white on the Puma website. Big mistake. Big mistake. I made the wrong business decision because I think that also, it discolored my opinion of the shoe because the colorway was so bad. A terrible colorway can do that, honestly. When I first saw the 1080, the new one, I said, man, this is gonna be horrible because this colorway is horrible. So yeah, not a fan of the colorway, but once I've gotten past that, this is the shoe that I've been just wanting to lace up. Downsides though, so as I said this morning, and even this afternoon, the drop is high and it feels high. This feels like a 10mm drop shoe, and that's one of the issues that Puma has across their entire platform. Higher drops. I would love to see them bring it down to 5 or 6, and that's really the sweet spot, and the Glycerin Max is in that range and is great. This has a little bit more pep and pop than the Glycerin Max. The other downside, yes, is the weight. So 320 grams in my size. For context, Asics Superblast 280 grams, Brooks Glycerin Max roughly the same weight. But then if you and Hoka Skyward X roughly the same weight, that's actually a little bit heavier than this. If you compare it to the Superblast, that's 250 or 260 grams in my size. So that is significantly heavier. This is significantly heavier than the Superblast, and that's the one thing that no brand yet has been able to replicate with the Superblast, having a high stack of foam in a training shoe, above 42 millimeters of foam, and keeping that weight in my size at 260 or below. There's no brand out there who's been able to do that. What's even more impressive from a design and engineering standpoint with the Superblast is that Asics has been able to do it non-plated. That also leads to the downsides of the ride experience with that shoe. Because it's non-plated and so tall, the foam needs to have some more inherent stiffness to it. Otherwise, it would be a complete mess. If you look at what happens in shoes like the New Balance Balos, that's up at 40 millimeters, very soft. You can't go much higher than 40, 42 in a soft platform without it feeling like you're running on split piece soup. So there's no split piece soup here, and that's also why I like this foam. It doesn't feel too firm. It doesn't, this is perfect. This is tuned perfectly, and you are getting more foam in general than something like the Superblast. And I think if Asics wanted to lighten, or Puma wanted to lighten the weight of this a little bit, they could do it by reducing some of the width. They made this very stable. This is almost a stability shoe. So if they wanted to make this lighter and truly put it in the same specs category as a Superblast, they could narrow it out. You do not need to have this wide. This is really wide. So that's where a lot of the weight is coming from. If we took a cubic inch of foam off of here and took a cubic inch of foam off of the Asics FF Turbo Plus midsole that's on the Superblast, you would find that they're probably, and I'm ballparking here, 10 to 15% of a weight difference, or maybe even less. It's just you get so much more foam and width on this shoe. That's what's bulking up the weight. So where you can, oh gosh, man, where you can really notice that weight difference the most is at those slower paces. When I'm picking up the pace, I can't feel the weight. When I'm going below that 730, that's why I said this is a dual character shoe. 720s and below, super bouncy. I don't even have to think about it. I'm just gliding. 730 and slower, that's where it feels maybe a little bit more cumbersome, and I'm not sure it's 100% of a slow recovery cruiser, and it could potentially feel a little bit clunkier. So there is no shoe that I have tried on the market that escapes trade-offs. There is no perfect running shoe. And if you're building a rotation, that's the thesis when we're thinking about why do we have a shoe rotation. That's the argument, other than to put stress on different parts of the bodies to reduce injury risk. But so we can get different capabilities. Each shoe is specialized in a little bit of a different way. And so once we get up to this $180, $200 price point, we want, and I want these shoes to have more range. But even the best of the best, this Glycerin Max, Skyward X, they all have trade-offs. They all have trade-offs. This reduces it a little bit. You still can do the recovery, but that is the downside of the shoe. The true recovery paces for me, that's the Achilles heel. I didn't want to say it. That's the Achilles heel of this shoe. But the grip is, of course, going to be great. The fit is perfect and true to size. The bounce is really nice. I've said this since the first few runs. It's an elevated workhorse, but over the past few days, I've realized it's even more than that. It's even more than that. I wouldn't be ripping threshold pace in the Nova Blast. I wouldn't be ripping threshold pace as smoothly as I was in this in the Vomero. So that's what you're getting from the extra 20 to 40 bucks out of this shoe. I also think another issue with it is the price point. 180, that's a no man's land price point. There's not a lot of shoes at 180. You have Brooks Hyperion Max 2 at 180. Some of the plated performance trainers, the more speed oriented shoes, are 180. You also have the, I was just thinking of another shoe that's 180. Hyperion Max 2, this SC Trainer V3. So yeah, Hyperion Max 2, this SC Trainer V3. Other than those three, out of the mainstream brands, not a ton is 180. We see a big cluster at 160, and that's the traditional max cushion shoes. So Nimbus, Vomero, what used to be called the premium daily trainer category, 1080, that's 165, more V5, 155, but around that 160, that's where we see the more cushioned everyday running shoes. And then 200 and above is where we see these souped up super max stack shoes, and this is in the no man's land of 180. So I think that's a little bit of a question mark too. And to go back to my question from earlier, is this overrated or underrated? Puma didn't even know how to price it. They didn't know, is this an elevated version of the Velocity Nitro that we put at 160? Because that's what the last version of the shoe was, right? The Magnify Nitro. This is now the Magnify Maximum, or the Mag Max. Or are we going for the throats of the Skyward X and the Superblast of the world and the Glycerin Max? Should we price this at 200? and they decided to split the difference, and that creates a little bit of a confusing question for us all of where does it fit. So 180 actually feels appropriate to me. It's just at that price we don't have much to comp it against, and we can either compare it against the cushioned everyday running shoes at 160, and versus those it performs a lot better, much more range, much more protection, much more bounce than anything you can get at that 160 mark. And then it's a little bit of a deal compared to the Glycerin Max. So it is different than the Glycerin Max, and I've done a bunch of videos comparing it, but I hadn't done a true workout, and that was my learning from today. This puppy can sing when you want it to, and I know not everyone's gonna be putting down 540 pace in this shoe, but if you are, or if you're doing tempos in the 6-minute range, this can handle it. So there's different flavors of shoes that can accomplish the same thing. Something like the DV8 Nitro 3 could do the same thing that this does, but this is giving you more stability, more protection, way less ground feel, more bounce. So if that's what you're looking for in a shoe, and you only want one shoe or 1 or 2 shoes, this would be great for that. So man, this is everything that I was hoping for out of the Superblast 2. I only have 1 run in that. I've got to test it more after Chicago, but much better than the Superblast 1. I can tell you that right now. So as of now, this is my new Superblast. This is my Superblast. We have about 85 miles on it. So 100-mile review coming at some point in the future. But shout out to the Puma Mag Max. So that's all I have for you guys today on the shoes. Man, great shoe for high mileage. There's a lot of good shoes out there right now for high mileage. And as I was saying, there's a lot of different flavors, but if your flavor is bounce and protection, can't go wrong with the Mag Max, and give it some time to break in. I do think 50 to 60 miles, or maybe even 40 to 50 miles, and also depending on how fast you're running, you'll learn how to work with the shoe, and maybe it will soften up a touch. I also think this is going to be a durability champion. We'll have to see how it holds up. So far, outsole has somewhere at 85 miles, but if you look from the side, still got lots of rubber there. So that's all I have for you guys today. Sign up for the Supwell app. I'll be back tomorrow with another video.